Welcome to our talks. Anthony. Today we're going to have a insightful conversation. For those that are new to the channel, we make mental health conversations and content that's going to be beneficial to your personal development and in addition to your well-being. However, in today's conversation, we're going to be talking about living with schizophrenia, coping strategies, and mental health support. I want to take in consideration because schizophrenia is one of the most misunderstood mental health conditions, often portrayed through fear and misinformation. But behind the labels are real people living with full and meaningful lives. Schizophrenia doesn't define who someone is, but is one part of a complex human history, right? So I want to be able to explore schizophrenia, what truly is, like I said, and the challenges that come with it, and most importantly, those coping tools and support systems that make recovery and stability more possible, right? So stick with me, grow with me, and we're going to be able to learn throughout this video. Let's talk about segment one. What is schizophrenia? Breaking down those misconceptions, right? So key point off rip is we got to talk about that definition, right? So schizophrenia is a chronic but treatable brain-based condition that affects how a person thinks, feels, and perceives reality, right? So these intrusive thoughts that are coming in, interfering with the way that they're living, and their daily living is. So, right, so this is something that, like I said, impacts that brain of that individual. Moving forward, we're going to be talking about some common symptoms, right? So we have positive symptoms, right? So those, hallucinations, seeing, hearing things, others usually don't, delusional, in a sense where, we're seeing those false beliefs. We have negative symptoms, all right? So we have withdrawal, reduced motivation, or flat affect. We have cognitive symptoms, right? So difficulty concentrating, organizing thoughts, or even remembering information, right? And then we also want to take in consideration that there is not split personality. So schizophrenia is not the same as dissociative identity disorder, right? So it's a disorder of perception, not multiple identities, right? So we got to take in consideration that every disorder has its criteria, and we got to really be able to regulate that when we're given with information on a specific criteria. This is what's going to be for that, right? So schizophrenia is not the same as dissociative identity disorder, right? So it has their differences. Moving forward, we're going to be talking about early signs, right? Subtle changes in regards to thinking, behavior, or even social engagement during late teens or early adulthood, right? So we really want to be able to kind of recognize and try to think about, if there's anything that's impairing our abilities in our daily living, right? We should be able to reach out to some type of support professional and have those proactive conversations so you're able to get the proper treatment and support necessary. So a reflective, prompt I really want to be able to think about so you're able to kind of develop some type of, rationality as we're navigating through this is how different might the world look if you viewed schizophrenia through compassion instead of that fear, right? So if you're being kind to yourself, you're being nice to yourself, you're being more gentle to yourself, you're telling yourself, I'm able to navigate through this with a positive mentality, right? And you have that, that sense of self-compassion rather than fear, how might things really look for you? So I really want to just kind of give you a brief moment to really think about that. Whether you have schizophrenia or you don't, right? All right, so moving to our next segment, we're going to be talking about living with schizophrenia, daily challenges, and realities, right? So life doesn't get any realer, but we got to really be transparent. So first key concept off rip, we're going to be talking about managing those symptoms, right? So medication and therapy can help regulate, the perception and the mood that comes with that schizophrenia, but managing the side effects, like, with that self-care regimen is really important for that daily, the daily challenges that come with it, right? So we got to really regulate that. Everybody's body's different, everybody's mind's different, everybody's experience is going to be different, but we have to be able to manage our symptoms so that we can feel at ease and things have a conducive balance. Moving forward is going to be that social isolation, right? So misunderstanding and stigma might make it hard to maintain those relationships or even employment. So we really got to regulate ourselves, try to push ourselves to the best of our capabilities. But like I said, socialization is something that is tied to this, and that makes it, a challenge. Moving forward, we're going to be talking about that relapse and prevention, right? So stress, loss of that sleep, and substance use can trigger symptoms and make them flare back up. Consistent routines and seeking that support can be able to reduce the risk and keep us, like I said, in that balanced, more conducive feeling. Moving forward is going to be that navigating systems, right? So accessing care can be difficult. Advocacy is often key to, receiving the right treatment. So we got to really be able to regulate that. Everybody, like I said, is different, has different experiences, going through, schizophrenia in their own way. However, we got to regulate that things are not going right, things don't feel right. We got to be able to raise our hand, get that proactive support so that we're able to feel at ease, right? A quote I also want to be able to include, right, for those out there is to consider that living with schizophrenia doesn't mean that you're broken. It means that you're learning to navigate the world in a different way, right? So I want to take in consideration, like, right? So just take a deep breath and really recognize that, everybody is going through your own unique experiences. Our obligation is not to sit there and compare our lives to other people and what they got going on. Why do they have this? Why am I the only one suffering? But we got to really regulate what's on our plate, what we got going on, what's on our conscience, and get to moving forward in a proactive way with embracing, our circumstances, right? And like I said, navigating the world in a different way that is going to be useful for us, or you rather, right? So let's take it to our next segment in regards to coping strategies, building stability and resilience. Like I said, we really got to be able to have the coping strategies to be able to maintain our schizophrenia or whatever our circumstances are, right? So a key concept I want to be able to take in consideration is medication management, right? So work with your, psychiatrists, your doctors to be able to find the right balance and that consistency. Because when you're just doing things, let's say you're doing things all week and everything's going good, that one day that you weren't, on point when it comes to your medication, things could start to, cause a snowball effect, right? And like I said, everybody's body, brain chemistry experiences are going to be different, but we got to regulate that. When we have consistency, we have that specific discipline, it's going to be able to keep things kind of better managed. Moving forward, we're going to be able to talk about therapeutic support, right? So cognitive behavioral therapy, these are a modality in regards to a therapeutic style that's going to be able to help, reframe the mind, those thoughts, and really be able to get, in tune to what's really going on. We also have cognitive redemption. We also have family therapy improvement in regards to the coping and our communication. So we got to regulate that, people that are dealing with this can impact them in various ways, like their friend group. This can impact you and your family. This can impact you internally by yourself as you're trying to deal with, your diagnosis. But we have to really be able to regulate and take into consideration that we do need support, and therapeutic ways will be able to proactively help us manage our symptoms. Moving forward, we're going to be able to take in consideration too is going to be that routine and that structure, right? So making sure we're keeping ourselves, disciplined. We have our own, treatment plan, our own routine is going to be able to help us, right, regulate our feelings, our symptoms as well, right? So keeping that regular sleep schedule, our proactive meals, make sure we're eating the healthy stuff, keeping that good stuff in our body, right? Actively, having that schedule to reduce our stress and that confusion, making sure we have our solitude, make sure we're doing things that are going to be able to keep us, low stress, right? So that mindfulness moments of that, right? So finding things that are going to be beneficial to you. And that's why it's important for you to have those conducive conversations with a professional, so you guys are able to have, this schedule and design, what's beneficial for you in regards to your treatment plan, because these things are really important to be able to build that stability and resilience as you're navigating through life. Is not Candyland. You're going to have your moments of, confusion, moments of difficulty, moments of, I'm not jacking it today, but we have to be able to have and build that stability to be able to have things more balanced. Next is going to be that stress management. So like I said, we have mindfulness, we have light exercises, we have music that can be able to help our, our thoughts to be able to make things more calmer for us. So we have to find what works for us in regards to that stress management. Next is peer support, so connecting ourselves with others to be able to share our similar experiences, provide that validation and that encouragement. You are not the only one that's going through this specific situation. There's been many people prior to you that had this, many people that navigated through this, many people that have it and are still doing extravagant things out there, right? But we got to regulate and take in consideration that we do need that peer support. We do need others to be able to help us out. We do need to listen and be present so we're able to gain information and learn from others as well, right? And that peer support will be able to provide that. Next is going to be crisis plan, right? So having a plan is something that's going to be able to help us, navigate through difficulty, right? And also too attaching that with trusted people in those emergency contacts and be able to prevent crisis from escalating. So we got to be able to take that in consideration, because having a plan, having something to fall back on, emergency type of situation or contact will be able to help us out and provide that additional support. So a pro tip I want to also be able to encourage as well is recovery is not about eliminating symptoms, right? completely. It's about managing them and building a meaningful life around them, right? So we have to be able to regulate ourselves and build that stability, so we have that resilience. So when we have moments of difficulty, we have moments of stress, it's not we're shutting ourselves down. It's not like we're consuming all this negativity and all these negative thoughts and just letting it just kind of just rain all over us, so we're over here getting wet and we're just we're down and about. But we also have to be able to build ourselves up with that compassion, that love, that support, and doing things that are going to be proactive for us. Like I said, those tools and having that consistency is really going to be able to help us manage through and have that balance. Moving forward in regards to our next segment, we're going to be talking about support systems. We have our friends, we have our family, and we have community roles as well, right? So our first key concept is going to be education first, right? So loved ones should learn about schizophrenia to understand behaviors and triggers. We really got to be able to push that out. All right, so we got to be able to just not assume, not just take things that we see in regards to the media and movies and all this type of the ignorance and all that type of stuff like that, but really sit with someone that has schizophrenia, really learn, really understand what's really going on, right? And that can really be give us more insight and meaningfulness towards other people, to be able to have that compassion as well. Next is going to be communication in regards to calmly, right? So you want to be able to communicate calmly when we're, interacting with others, right? So avoid arguing and challenging delusional beliefs. Directly focus on safety and empathy, right? So we got to be able to regulate ourselves, keep ourselves calm, and keep ourselves with a positive mindset as we're navigating through schizophrenia. I also want to encourage us, right, to have a motivational type of mindset, and embrace ourselves with that encouragement, not pressure ourselves, right? So gently encouragement helps, right? So pushing ourselves too hard can increase that stress. So we really got to regulate ourselves, know, what our do's, what our don'ts, what our triggers are. Really just, like I said, spend time with yourself, spend time with those professionals, really get to learn what's really going on. And this can really be able to help us to encourage ourselves with, like I said, that motivational mindset, rather than just kind of just pushing ourselves and really making things too difficult, right? Next is going to really be that promote independence, right? Support daily routines and celebrate those small wins, right? So as you're navigating through difficulty, as you're navigating through change, and you're navigating through making that consistent change for yourself, right? And you're seeking those proactive supports, you got to celebrate yourself, right? It's not about like reaching to the end of the big picture, but the small steps towards that big picture have meaning to it. So we got to really be able to regulate that, acknowledge that, appreciate that, and really promote, those small wins and celebrating those as well. Next is going to be, like I said, that crisis response, right? So we got to be able to have a backup plan. We really got to be able to have the emergency contacts and people to be able to help us when we do need, right? So know when to call for help and know how to do it safely, right? So using the crisis lines or mobile crisis supports, not just the emergency funds, but the specific ones that are catered towards you, can really be able to help you get the responses that you need. So these things are really important. We got to be able to have our support systems, friends, families, and even, like I said, community roles, and even the professional supports can really be able to help us down the line, right? The people out here for us, many people out here that went through the same situations that you're going through, or even worse. But like I said, having these resources and having these supports are really important for us to navigate through schizophrenia when we're having these, these intrusive thoughts. Moving forward, we're going to be talking about finding hope and purpose. We all have hope and purpose. We all have meaning. We're all blessed with unique gifts, but we got to really be able to channel that, focus on that, have compassion, and really, like I said, channel that by thinking about what we have to offer, and that is something. So a first key concept is real. So many people with schizophrenia lead fulfilling lives with treatment and support, right? So we got to make sure we're taking our medication. We got to make sure we're tapping in with our doctors. We got to make sure that we're doing things for ourselves. We have our self-care regimen. We got to make sure that we have consistency in regards to our routine. You got to take care of your health and your mental health. You don't know what someone else to the left or the right of you got going on, but we got to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, so then you're able to support others and do what you got to do, right? So I really want us to take in consideration in regards to recovery is real when we all put ourselves first as a priority. Moving forward, we're going to be talking about finding meaning, right? So creativity, advocacy, spirituality, volunteering, even can nurture that purpose and that self-esteem. So keeping ourselves busy, keeping ourselves around, the support groups and things of meaning, right? Things of purpose, right? And channeling ourselves into those things productively and proactively and positively will really be able to help us find meaning and keep ourselves and our hopes high. moving forward, it's going to be that success story. So, right, so individuals with schizophrenia have achieved success in art, academia, and activism, right? So proof is in the pudding, right? So proof that your diagnosis isn't your destiny, right? So we don't believe in regards to just kind of keeping your mind floating in regards to diagnosis. Don't focus on the diagnosis too much, but focus on your life, focus on the meaning, focus on what you could do, focus on the change and things that have to come for the future, right? We don't know everything completely, right? But just focus on things that you can control, right? And we talked about those things: the support systems, eating well, sleep, making yourself a priority, sleep, self-care, right? There's so many things that you can do, even to like your things of interest, right? What are the things that you enjoy? Right, so making sure you put in things that you enjoy first, and making things a priority. Got your doctor in line, like you have all these things that you could be focusing on, and making sure that you're doing things that are proactive for you. Next is going to be hope through connection, right? So every act of understanding reduces stigma and brings healing to the community, right? So we got to really be able to recognize that we do need each other, we do need connection, we do need support, and making sure that we have hope tied to that is going to be able to help us develop those connections as well. So in regards to that, I want to be able to pull into a mindset shift, right? So hope isn't a cure, it's a lifeline. Recovery begins in the moment we believe it is possible. So we got to really be able to regulate. Can't emphasize enough a positive mentality, a positive mindset, to let ourselves know that hope is possible. You know what I mean? When we have that faith, we have the touch of the high power. We believe that we're able to navigate through this with a positive mindset. And like I said, we're not the only one that's going through this, right? So I want us to take that in consideration. Recovery blends when we're able to believe that it is possible. So just pulling this video into a close, a lot of information, a lot of things got going on, but we really want to take in consideration that breaking the stigma and building understanding is something that is possible, right? So, like I said, you're not the only one that's going through this unique situation, but we really got to be able to take in consideration that we need compassion, we need support, and we definitely do need understanding. So try your best to educate yourself, try your best to do what's best for you, and let's not fear this with silence, and let's develop a conversation where we're able to break the stigma and with strength, and really be able to help those with schizophrenia break these negative, intrusive thoughts with more positivity, more support, and more love, right? So if you found this video beneficial, give it a thumbs up, share if possible, and I'll see you on the next one. Stay blessed.